My wife, you came back to me. That's what the bandaged man said when I stepped into room 304, and I swear the world stopped. I had never seen him before. I had never been anyone's wife to a stranger, but the way his voice cracked made it sound like a prayer he'd been saving for years. I had spent 3 years being invisible on purpose, changing linens, emptying bins, moving like a ghost, so I never caught my reflection in the glass and had to ask whether Emily Carter still counted as a person. I wasn't supposed to be in 304 for anything but a pickup. Mrs. Patterson got rushed to ICU, the charts got shuffled, and I walked into the wrong life at the wrong time. He woke up while I adjusted his blanket, green eyes, wet with confusion, fixed on me like a lighthouse cuts through fog. Emily, I knew you'd come back, even when they told me you didn't exist. Let me back up a sec. I don't follow business news. I don't keep score of fortune anything. My ex-husband took that appetite for comparison with him when he left, but the chart at the foot of the bed said, Daniel Whitmore, CEO, MedTech Solutions. And in the photos I found later, he's the kind of man who stands tall at galas while a beautiful blonde leans in like a finishing touch. In the bed, though, he was alone, head bandaged, no flowers, no visitors, no proof that the world ever clapped for him. And he looked at me as if I was the proof. I ran. Lena Harper caught me before I turned to smoke. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. I told her I'd walked into the wrong room. She told me I'd walked into Whitmore's room. Car accident. Head trauma, memory loss. She asked if he'd said anything. I said he was confused. She studied me the way doctors do, like your body's a puzzle they could solve if you'd stop editing your answers. Then she said something that put a crack in my armor. Sometimes familiar faces help the brain find its way back. Familiar, I thought, and felt a truth I didn't want. To a man with stitched-up memories, kindness looks like family. For years ago, I was working nights at St. Mary's, living on soup and stubbornness, telling myself invisibility was a skill. My supervisor texted me before I could decide whether this was fate or misfiling. Dr. Harper requested you for 304. I didn't sleep much. I dreamt green eyes and tatters of a voice saying my name like a secret he'd paid to keep. When I walked back into 304 the next morning, he was awake. Softer around the face now that the swelling had come down, a white seam running along his temple like a sentence underlined in pencil. You came back, he said, and it wasn't the words. It was the certainty, like I was the punchline to a joke only he remembered. I'm just here to clean, I told him, but he kept going. Soup when he had nothing, my hand in his when nights were knives. A song I hummed to keep the dark from swallowing him whole. I told myself he had me mixed up with a nurse from a different life. He asked why I was crying if none of it was true. Yeah, that happened. I avoided him for 2 days, traded shifts, hid out in pediatrics where the stickers and the tiny gowns make you believe people can start over. Dr. Harper found me with a sandwich I wasn't eating and a folder I didn't want. She'd called St. Mary's. She had a grainy photo of a woman in scrubs, me, carrying a tray into room 7. Dated 4 years ago. He formed an attachment to someone who took care of him, she said. The notes don't name her, but they say her kindness saved him. I remembered then, all at once. The bearded man no one visited, the way I stayed and talked because he needed a human voice, the soup I brought because hunger is louder than shame. He never told me his last name. He said he was trying to forget who he'd been. I didn't ask for more because asking can look like wanting, and wanting has a price when you live at the bottom of the ladder. The code blue for 304 hit, while I was still holding the past in my lap. We ran. A small crowd had formed at the door, nurses, security, and a woman I recognized from glossy photos, Clara Vaughn. The ex-wife with perfect cheekbones and a voice like chilled champagne. She was arguing to have me banned, telling security I was manipulating a vulnerable man, claiming proxy rights like they were handcuffs. Dr. Harper showed the updated directive. His voice came from inside, clear enough to cut through everything. I want to see Emily. I stepped past Clara because courage sometimes feels like nausea, and he looked at me like breath hurts less when you're here. Clara told me I was nobody. The old shame tried to flood back in. He told her to leave, and the door clicked behind a life I don't belong to. Over the next week, his memories didn't come back like files reloaded. They came back like weather, scent, sound, a phrase. Moon River, he said one afternoon while I watered a plant. You said your grandmother loved it. He remembered my laugh, my stupid stories about my cat. The way I'd fallen asleep in a chair because going home to silence felt heavier than staying. I remembered a different him. Not the CEO, not the headline. A man empty enough to be honest. You like me broken, he said once. I like you true, I said back. There was a dinner, not a chandelier place, not the kind where the forks multiply, Luigi's Pizza. Family photos on the wall and a waitress with a laugh that made the glasses vibrate. He wore jeans, knocked his water over when I walked in. Confessed to being terrified that the hospital bubble would pop and I'd see we had nothing outside it. Then we'll build something, I said. So he rebuilt his company with Clara's connections because survival sometimes wears a tuxedo, not truth. And me? 6 months after he left. I drove to his office and watched through the glass while he smiled in a suit that fit his shoulders like intention. I did not go in. You can call that fear or realism. Either way, it kept us 4 years apart. He asked me to dinner again, and again after that. And one night, he sent me an article where he thanked a hospital aide who changed his life. Then forwarded an email from the board. A new role at St. Catherine's, Director of Patient Experience, created to protect the human part of healing, 3 times my pay. This isn't charity. The note said, this is recognition. When you've been invisible long enough, being seen feels like stepping into sunlight without sunglasses. It stings before it warms. On a cool evening thick with the smell of rain on hot pavement, he drove me to an old neighborhood and stopped in front of a building I knew by heart, the place I'd limped home to from St. Mary's, where the walls absorbed my secrets and the windows stuck in summer. Apartment 3B had been renovated but not erased. The light still fell in strips across the floor, and you could hear a radio 2 doors down like comfort through plaster. I bought the building, he said, not as a flex, but as a confession. I've been restoring it for months. He knelt there with a small box like we weren't already mid-story, like promises can start anywhere. I'm not asking you to move back here, he said. I'm asking you to make a home with me here, or anywhere you want, as long as we're together. I said yes with the air stuck in my throat and my hands shaking because sometimes you don't get logic, you get a moment, and if you recognize it, that's grace. We got married in the garden behind St. Catherine's, string lights, donated flowers, Dr. Harper officiating with a smile that said medicine is bigger than degrees. And my cat Whiskers wandered between table legs like a furry ring bearer with commitment issues. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest, and for once honest felt like enough. But here's where the movie would roll credits and real life rolls questions. The promotion, was it right? Was it earned? Does love contaminate merit or illuminate it? Are we okay with a man in power using his leverage to enshrine the kind of care most hospitals forget to budget for? Justice isn't just a courtroom word. It lives in break rooms and schedules and salaries. And I think about the aides who taught me how to be gentle when the chart didn't say be gentle. The ones still invisible because nobody with a microphone said their names out loud. I wear the ring and I love the man. And I still ask myself whether we built a bridge or jumped a line, you know? I don't have a clean ending for you, only a frame. Me and Daniel dancing slow to Moon River in a cafeteria strung with lights. 2 people who almost missed each other because pride wears a nice suit and shame wears a faded scrub top. And in the doorway you can see Clara on the sidewalk across the street, looking in for a second like she might say something, then turning away into a town that will always remember her as the one who almost kept the ending. Maybe that's the real open question. Not whether love deserves us, but whether we deserve what love asks us to remake. Tell me what you think down below. Was the promotion fair or favoritism? Where's the line between gratitude and power? And if you'd been in that hallway when a stranger called you my wife, would you walk in or walk away?